Knives Monroe is an Austin, Texas-based filmmaker. And yes, that is his real name, most badass name ever. A self-confessed glorified TikToker, and he makes some awesome ones. Knives has been shooting and editing video for 17 years, pretty much the same as me. In May 2022, he'll DP his first narrative fictional short film for the first time in 6 years. Super exciting. Be on the lookout in mid-2022 for You Don't Mess Around with Nancy Noble. As soon as I saw Knives, I knew I wanted to chat with this guy, and I've been really excited for this chat. So without further ado, join me in welcoming Knives Monroe to the podcast. So we got Knives Monroe on the podcast, which I am extremely stoked about. This guy, I've been watching every single post that you make on TikTok since I've been on there, maybe about a year or something. And you're just coming with this insight that for someone like myself, I'm 36. I've been doing this for a while. Maybe not in the same realm. I'm very more in the video production side, less in the filmmaking side, trying to get more into the filmmaking side. And you are one of my biggest inspirations, to be honest, man. So thank you for coming on.
The pleasure is all mine. When you invited me, I was stoked. I was listening to the interview with friend of the show. Let me look it up right now. Make sure I get his name right. Brent DeSilva.
Brent DeSilva, my buddy Brent. Yeah.
That guy's got it going on. So you know all the cool people minus me. The pleasure's all mine, man. I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
You're the man. No, I'm stoked that you checked out an episode of my podcast. That's pretty cool.
Well, of course.
Pretty sweet.
I need to know what I was getting myself into. What if this was an ambush?
Yeah, that's fair, man. That's fair. So a lot of the stuff I want to talk to you about is filmmaking as an art form, your experience. Not really, I want to talk about hear about your experience in filmmaking, but I want to hear about your experience feeling like an artist through filmmaking. Can you just dive into that just right off the bat? Because I'd love to hear about that from you.
Sure. Well, it starts at a very young age. My first memory was a movie. And this isn't revisionist history. This is just the way it is. I promise you, there's no embellishment. I just speak in cursive. So it sounds like he's making it up or whatever. But my first memory was the Coen brothers film, Raising Arizona. And my first memory specifically is John, what's his name? It's because I'm hearing myself back and it's kind of hard to speak at the same time. John Goodman is pulling William Forsythe out of the ground. They just escaped from prison. It's my first memory. My mom worked at a video store. It was called All Hit Video. And we grew up in a real poor community, so movies were the only game in town. And it didn't, it took so long. It took until I was 16 to be like, oh shit, that's why I'm so weird. It's because I'm a filmmaker, just like this Quentin Tarantino guy. That explains everything. And from 16 and on, I took it very seriously. As far as my relationship with filmmaking as an artist, I don't know any other way. What I do know is people are very uncomfortable with calling themselves an artist. And I'm not, because that's like saying you're uncomfortable with being a human being. Having said that, because for me, being an artist, all I got to do is inhale and exhale. It's that easy for me. There's no challenge. It's just, I was born this way. But I will say, in my age, I'm going to be 34 tomorrow, so I'm catching up to you. And
Happy birthday,
in my
man.
age, thanks, buddy. In my age, I've realized that you shouldn't necessarily have to have your identity entwined with your career, right? Like, there's more to life than that. But I don't look at being an artist as my career. It's more like what I do in my framework. It's how I see things. Neil deGrasse Tyson, when asked if he was an atheist, he said, the only ist I am is a scientist. And the only ist Knives Monroe is an artist.
Amazing. You just called yourself Knives Monroe.
Yeah. Is
that your real name?
Yeah. I get that question all the time, you can imagine. TSA, you name it.
I love it, man. That is
booking new clients, Knives Monroe. You'd think it'd be a red flag, but people think it's neat sometimes.
I would. If personally, I do. My wife was like, "That is the coolest friggin' name I've ever heard." Same,
Oh,
same.
well, tell her I
It
said thanks.
it is the
What
coolest
about
name.
Quinn? Quinn Aden, is that your name? Because my email may have came a little different.
Yeah, that's my first name and middle name. My
I love
last
it.
name is Corkal, so it didn't have the same ring to it.
No, I
It's
love it.
I don't know, man. It's confusing. Like with clients, they sometimes they think that's my last name. Shit gets weird sometimes.
Can I just
It's
say,
all
because
good.
I'm looking at you, you talked about being an admirer of my TikToks and my work, if you will. Yeah, that's how I feel about you, man. The first time I saw your TikTok was I duetted it, and I cried listening to these pains of the editor working person. And it's funny, my father-in-law, I guess I got shared in some groups in Facebook or something, and my father-in-law saw it, and he was not pleased. He was like, "Why are you crying? Why are you having a
Oh
mental
no.
breakdown?" And I was like, "Buddy, you don't know what we go through, man. Video editing is no joke." And I've taken on some massive projects that have required massive revisions, and it just makes me sad. So shout out to you,
Yeah.
buddy, because your stuff
Thanks,
is
dude.
just so remixable and memeable and stitchable and just so fun. And there was a common ilk between us. Neither one of us wore Iron Maiden garb today, which I kind of thought you would. But
I was so
I
close.
there was something a kindred spirit there. We come from the same ilk, and I vibed with that right away because there's a lot of young blood on TikTok that are filmmakers, videographers, cinematographers. They're
Yeah.
20, but then here's this guy who's kind of like me, and I know you've been around the block, and so much respect to you, sir. I tip my hat to you.
Oh, thanks, man. That means a lot, and I appreciate that. And that's really funny that you brought that up because I was actually going to ask you about that post because for anyone who's never seen it, it's a post about me just talking about like what sucks about being a video editor is, you have to be in it all the time. You can't have a podcast on, you can't be watching a movie, whatever people do while they're working. We can't really do that when we're editing. And then this guy comes along, never seen your account before this, and just films his face beside my face and then zooms in slowly on it, and then a tear comes down, and I'm like, is he trolling me? I don't know what the fuck's going on. And then dude, it was the best. Like, I just did a deep dive into your account right there because I was like, who is this guy? And then
If I
yeah,
may, if I may, this was a beautiful. I like to connect dots. That confusion, that sensation that you felt watching that TikTok. Is this guy trolling me, or is this guy serious, or is he having a mental breakdown, or what's going on? That confusion, that's electricity, man. Like that's what
yeah,
artists kind of like live for. Is that kind of like, is this real? Is this what's going
so
on?
true.
Those questions, like those are like the fun, inspiring questions. So I'll just leave it at that.
Man, that's so true. Less traditional art, like just like things happen, and it's like you're right. That is kind of art because art is can be that magical at times as well, right?
Art's
So
art's about making something that is like, this is really pretentious, but this is what it is. Something that transcends itself. If I show you a paper clip, but it goes above and beyond its own proportions, it becomes art. That's what it's magic. It's alchemy. It's science. It's all those mixtures put together. If you're able to do something like that with a camera, I think that's really special. And
that's
it's
cool.
scalable. Everybody at home can experience it at the same time or on their phone on the toilet.
Which is probably the majority of people. It's
Same.
absurd. It's absurd how much time, not on the toilet, but it's absurd how much time I spend on that stupid app, man. But it's the strangest thing because there's a lot of entertaining, just random shit on there, but also just, I feel like I've never had a community like behind me like I do. And it's not a massive community, but I just feel connected to other creators like I never have. You being one of them, and it really feels good, man. It feels great.
I think it is massive. Like maybe you've been in contact with like 25 creators,
True.
maybe 50, maybe 100. Like if all those dudes, myself included, were looking at you in a room, you would feel something, right? and we're on your side. We're on your team. Like, there's something that happens when we're engaging with these on our phones, these black monoliths, where they don't feel real. It feels separated or abstract. But these
Right.
are real human beings
Man,
who are supporting you. And I would never lose sight of that if you can.
that is the biggest thing. I've only done maybe recorded 5 episodes of this, and that is the biggest takeaway I've had from it.
Mm-hmm.
It's because I've interviewed or chatted with a bunch of people like yourself who I sort of look up to on that app, and it's like, oh wow, these guys are just they're just the same as me. You guys are the same as we're all doing the same stuff, living our lives, being on we're doing the same stuff, man. We're doing different projects, obviously, but the community's amazing. I love it.
Has this been a recurring theme on your podcast? How good looking photography Canadians have just took over the world? Like, is that a common theme? Because oh my goodness, I was born in the wrong country.
No
You
one's mentioned
guys.
it. You're the first one. So,
Oh, I
but
won't be the last.
Brent. Well, thank you so much, dude. But Brent is also he's only about an hour away. So, I guess we didn't chat about being Canadian so much, but yeah, I mean Peter
Something in
McKinnon,
your water.
he took over the YouTube world, right? So,
Yeah. At one point.
at one point,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, he's a good photographer too. I got to ask you something I've been thinking about because I've been thinking about increasing sort of up in the quality of my TikToks because I just like you often. I mean, you do some where you sit down, you have your camera, there and you're doing the full setup, but often it's just grabbing your phone, you get a thought, you talk to the phone kind of thing. I've been thinking about doing that, and I know in the past you've talked about TikToks being art. You've talked about them being filmmaking,
Yeah.
considering them filmmaking, taking that back as artists, calling it
Yes.
filmmaking and not just calling it content. Can you talk about that a little bit and expand on it?
So I made this TikTok and it was called I don't remember what it was called. It's because I write them out, right? And I have it on
Okay.
Evernote somewhere. And it was talking about, we went from the 6 hour epic to the 6 season show to the 90-minute movie to all this down to a Vine to a TikTok. And it was about, I called it the post cinema singularity.
Yes.
And because of the internet and because of technology, it's now become one. I love Paul Thomas Anderson, Steven Spielberg, Quentin Tarantino, these purists who shoot on 35 millimeter celluloid film. And they're gatekeepers. They have this monopoly of the mind that they know what filmmaking is. When the truth is, I see these 14-year-olds on TikTok who know what filmmaking is. And it's just as viable. And I know for a fact that if J.J. Abrams, Quentin Tarantino, you name it, any director, if they were 15 years old right now, they'd be on TikTok and they'd be making shit. So
Interesting.
I try to do that. I try to not beat myself up about it because quality is subjective. But at the same time, my philosophy with TikTok is low effort content. That's been my philosophy. That's what brought me to the dance. That's what connected us, and I think a lot of ways. I come from filmmaking world where you spend 18 months on a script, 6 months in pre-production, 3 months in principal photography, 3 months in post-production. You screen it, it's over. And so when you look at all that time, it's 2 years. 2 years of your life for one rep. But on TikTok, you can get a rep every day. You can get multiple reps a day. You can get better and get into that feedback loop and grow faster. It's exponential. So I had to unlearn a lot of filmmaking bad habits, these tics that no longer served me in the modern world. What's good is I can blend and infuse the two now and create something that is my own. And I don't know if that answered your question. I don't have any answers. I don't know about your TikTok algorithm, but mine's the top 5 ways to grow on TikTok, have a hook and all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's like entry level, basic, you know, common sense or something.
Yeah.
But the truth is, I like the Mr. Beast mentality of create the best thing that you can, put in the extra effort, and it finds an audience, you know? One thing I've noticed on YouTube, and I've been on YouTube since the beginning, and I hate where it is right now in our world, photography, videography land. Like, it takes forever to get to a point. It takes like 4 minutes.
Yeah.
People's intros are like 30 seconds. I'm like, I got places to be. Get to the thing. Get to the fireworks factory, as they say in The Simpsons. And so I like the Mr. Beast approach of boom, 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 boom. Here it all is. Here's everything. You know what you're getting. We over deliver. Here's a side angle. We over deliver. It's iconic. He's taking the filmmaking approach. He reinvented the wheel. He really did. And now what he's doing is a film production. He has essentially writers and, you know, people who work on something like 6 months out, and like, he's a filmmaker. He's one of the best there is. And I think there's a snobbiness that people would look down on him and say, well, he's not a filmmaker. He's a YouTuber. That's a dirty word.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Everybody's on YouTube. It's bigger than film. It's transcended, you know? Now,
Crazy.
I got 2 kids. And my 16-year-old, he rarely goes to the movies unprompted on his own without me, with his friends. Rarely. But this motherfucker, his name's also Aden. This motherfucker is on TikTok, is on YouTube, is on Discord, and he's consuming, and that's where it's happening. He's also on Hulu and Crunchyroll as well. But that's where it's happening, and that's where I want to be. And it's all redefined. I want to be a part of that. And I'm not getting any younger. And I want to connect. And as opposed to spending 2 years on a thing and making it perfect, I just decided to make stuff every day. No effort. Show up. Do the work. Eventually, it evolves into something of higher quality. What you see now, it didn't start this way. It started with me with pimples and shy and didn't look at the camera and all that. Even though I'd been in the game for 15 years. And now it's gotten to a place where people tell me what my style is. I'm like, I'm not trying to do or anything. I'm just trying to show up. You know, they say 70% of success is just showing up, and that's what I'm trying to do.
I love that entire answer. I'm definitely cutting that up and putting it on TikTok. Talking about TikTok, that's happening.
I'm going to try my best to give you like 15-second, 30-second answers. I apologize.
Dude, you know, as an editor, you want more. Give me all of it. I mean, I don't want to sit there and go through all the shit. This is great, but I mean, you know, an hour-long interview for like a 1-minute piece is a bit much, but
I do the same.
We've all been there. But more, Absolutely. We need more, man. We don't need less. We need more. That's amazing, dude. So, how do we connect indie darlings to this TikTok world? Because you're on there as Knives Monroe, but you're also on there as indie darlings. Tell me what indie darlings is and how it came to be.
This was the question I knew I was going to get, and I kind of rehearsed it. Indie darlings, which I also have a tattoo of the insignia right there.
Nice.
So I mean serious business, and so does my wife. It's our business, my wife and I.
I love the logo, by the way.
Well, thank you. It's very minimal, and it's evolved. In the beginning, we were a production company, and then it turned into 9 other things. And now what it is right now is it's a store. You know, we sell merch, apparel, whatever, stickers. And what I want to be able to do is get so big and my brand be so big, Knives Monroe, become so famous and have all this clout where I can support indie darlings and be their store. Where if Quinn Aden needs merch and he wants beanies and hoodies and stickers and posters for his audience, we can supply that. We'll make the art with you. It could be collaborative, or we can do it all for you. And you have your own store on our shop, and you get X amount of the commish. And I want to do that with all these creatives that I love, all these indie darlings, these guys before they explode. And then eventually when they do explode and everybody wins and we're all making tons of money, and the endeavor's still there about these indie darlings. If I had to define what an indie darling was, I always think of Joseph Gordon-Levitt, before he became like in the public consciousness as a
Right.
big mainstream actor. He was that little indie guy that was like in all these little films that no one ever heard of, like Brick and Mysterious Skin, which is one of my all-time favorites. And I just knew one day, if given the right opportunity, he would be a huge star. And then like Inception happened, and I was like, holy shit, everybody knows who this guy is. And he got the best scene in the movie. That was an indie darling that exploded. Another one's like a Bo Burnham, who kind of started a little bit on third base, but he wasn't a household name until he was. Donald Glover wasn't a household name until he was. And I love that journey. I love the come up. I genuinely do. It's the juice of what we do. So that's the ethos of Indie Darlings. If you go to indiedarlings.net, cheap plug, it's a store, and we're looking to make it more and more robust. I decided I don't want to do freelance anymore last year. And so I took away the media services. We're a multimedia company. Took that away because I have more work than I can handle, and I keep getting booked. And I don't want to promote those services anymore because I can't scale myself as a one-man band. So now it's a store, and that you can sell. You can scale, and it can make money as I'm sleeping.
Dude, that is the coolest. I didn't know that that was sort of the goal. I love that idea. I think that's amazing. And I think I don't know if there's another home for like independent artists in that way where you're there to help them with their merch, to help them get set up in that way, because I think that's intimidating for a lot of people. Like I don't know where to start there, so we're gonna chat, but so yeah, that's an amazing service I think that you could offer. And you are, again, like you're the indie guy for me. You're the indie inspiration for me, and you're out there doing it.
Cool.
You've done it. That's always a big factor too. If you're coming in as this guy who's like, you just got to go do it, then you better have fucking done it, and you did it.
Yeah.
Tell me
Yeah.
about some of the previous films you've worked on. I know you wrote and directed at least a couple, right?
Yeah. The first thing I ever did was make a feature film. I didn't start with short films and then graduate to commercials, music videos, I did all that backwards. I made a feature film first, then a short film, started dabbling in some wedding stuff, did some corporate stuff, music videos, weddings. I went backwards.
That's so crazy.
I just really wanted to make a movie first. So when I hear you say that you're a videographer who wants to get into filmmaking world, I'm like, oh yeah, that's the path.
That's the
But
path.
if you wanted to, you can just start. You could just start there and be like, I'm a filmmaker. I wrote a thing. I'm going to direct it this summer. That's that. That's what I did in 2012. I'm actually getting a lot of firsts here on your pod. But I think I'm going to remake my first movie this year as
Nice.
as a 10-year anniversary thing, and kind of just show that way the art works in tandem with each other, and you can see the contrast of what's happened in 10 years. But it's the same story. So I think I want to remake it. It was entitled Her Doppelganger, and I shot it on the budget of hot dogs and handshakes. And luckily the script was good, and so people were gravitated to work for free on it. To this day, I don't believe in doing free work. I believe if you're a director, then you can, I'm a DP on one of my friends' shorts. We're going to film it in May. I'm not getting paid for that because I'm the EP. I'm also producing it. So I'll cut my fee in half to put it back into the film. You can do that when you're the director, but actors need to get paid. And I've paid all my leads since the beginning, even when I had no money, when I was broke, you name it. And I believe in that. That movie was a success. It's on YouTube. I don't recommend it because it's super shittily made. It's kind of like I never went to college, but it's sort of like a student film. But I screened it in a theater, 400 people, sold it out, made our money back. And it's one of the proudest moments of my life. That was 2012. I was 24. My second film was a disaster. It was called The Seven Hands of God. I don't have a copy of it. The producer stole it from me. It's a story I rarely talk about, but I'm sure I've covered it somewhere. And that was a big learning lesson, man. I put $8,000 of my money into it, which at the time in 2014 was a fortune. I had a baby on the way. It may as well have been $50,000. Never saw a penny back. Don't have a copy of the movie. I'm not friends with those people. It's just a big fat L, public humiliation. But the lessons I learned, oh, that was tuition. Then I made an anthology film in 2015 with my buddies, and that was super great and rehabilitative, and it was awesome. Made a short film in 2016. And then I have not made a narrative, fictional piece of filmmaking in 6 years, since 2016. Is that 6 years or 4 years? That's 6 years.
6.
And my friend J.R. Molina is pulling me out of retirement to EP and DP his movie that he's going to direct. He's going to fly from New York in May. We're going to film it. I've already put in over 10 grand into this movie, which is a fortune for me, you know, and I've invested in it. I'm just so proud of this guy. But I have shot so many corporate BTS, which is my specialty, BTS documentaries, thousands of videos that I have exported since my last short film. I've gotten these reps in. I'm going to be on 2 film production shoots this week. I'm booked all the time. I've gotten so many reps in. My powers are so crazy right now. Maybe not the best in the world, but the best that I've ever been in my career.
Yeah.
That I have a feeling, the sneaking suspicion, that when me and my buddy film his short film in May, that it's going to be quite exceptional because I have all these reps behind me. And you know what it is, client work. You know what it is to find work, to close the deal, to go above and beyond, and then present them with these assets, and they fucking love it. And that word of mouth spreads, and oh, you got to get Quinn. Oh, you got to get this. I mean, this guy's the guy. And you start seeing the money coming in, and you got to say no to work. It's a beautiful thing. And it's a hard thing to do. And it kind of just happened. So I think going back to filmmaking world, it's going to be a breeze because I'm working with actors. Like, I know what they're going to say. We're going to block it. Like, it's just, it's easy. You know, I know what these setups are going to be, and I know what a bad take looks like. I know when it comes to the edit, we're just going to edit out all the bad shit. And I'm going to have notes where scene 4 was the best here and da-da-da. It's just easy, baby stuff now. Movie making is easy compared to corporate life, I think.
What were a lot of the corporate projects, like what kind of projects were you working on typically?
Oh, geez. I'm still embedded in these works. Lately, well, it's 2 things. So my bread and butter is behind the scenes documentaries. That's my bread and butter. And that's what I love to do. I love to do that. So you can imagine something like doing an event videography sort of montage video. I could do that shit all day. I love that. I love it. So I do a lot of that, and I get paid handsomely for that. The second thing I do, I have multiple jobs. And one of my full-time jobs is with a company who works in e-learning. And so we build courses, which is a pretty good skill to have, to see that workflow, to see the life cycle of that. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot of teleprompter work. It's a lot of green screen, talking heads, curriculum development, you know, in the back end, all these bullet points and then slide, and then like this person like spinning globe and like that kind of stuff. So I do a lot of that. One-man band. I'm the first person that they hired in this company that does that. They normally just contracted it out, and they built this position for me. Essentially, I fit the mold, and that's been happening more and more and more in my professional career. Is they create a Knives Monroe position for me because I'm really good at apparently selling the Knives Monroe silhouette that they have that they need to fill. And let me just say, 8 years ago, that wasn't as easy to do. But now everybody knows that video is a necessity. It's just as important to your business as the wireless internet is if you want your business to stay afloat. So I feel like a fucking goddamn car salesman. But yeah, so mostly that, if that answers your question.
Yeah, I do I have the same sort of mentality right now. It's like I don't have to sell anyone on video. And like you said, 10 years ago, it was like trying to convince someone they needed video. It's like, you don't need to do that anymore. That's not a thing anymore.
Amen.
Yeah, but you said that you're really good at like selling yourself. And I guess that's different than selling video, obviously, right? You're selling your abilities to do the
Yeah.
video. And you said that's easier than ever. Is that only because of, how huge video is, or is that just the confidence that you've gained through working on all these projects?
I was. Thank you for this question. This is a great question. Everybody asks me the same shit. Like, what's your favorite movie? What camera do you use? We can get to that if you want. But I like this question quite a bit. It's the first time I've ever been asked it. I've been ridiculously overconfident, I think, my entire career. And I would sell myself before I had the skills to back it up. And now I have the skills to back it up. So that's a lovely marriage, right? But
Yeah.
I didn't always have those skills. I may have booked myself filming a few weddings and quinceañeras that I was not qualified to do. And I may have not accepted full payment because I felt so bloody awful about turning in those assets.
But you did it.
But the good news is I did it. Yeah, I got those reps in. I was able to say I did it. And you learn from those mistakes, man. I encourage people, fuck up often and just get over it and move on and just get that experience in. It's like video games, like XP. Chop those little bushes and like that weak shit and get stronger, man. Like I'm all about that. Like let's try to be as OP as possible.
Yeah, you absolutely have to. Actually, I was doing a podcast last night, and we were chatting about that very thing, and we were talking about gear. Maybe this is a gear segue, but
That's
we were
fine.
talking about how you need the tools in order to get better at whatever the thing is. Like for the longest time, and I know you can appreciate this. Like I was shooting on the T2i. Or no,
Hell yeah.
sorry, I was shooting on the T2i first, and then the Canon 6D, which has a very inferior video. Like the sensor is not good for video, great for photos, terrible for video.
60?
The 6D, the 6D, the first 6D, yeah.
Full frame
sensor, but just shit video, like garbage.
Okay.
Not good quality, especially side by side with some of the other cameras. So, but anyway, I wasn't about to go to 60. It only did 1080 at 24 frames, or 30. And it wasn't about to go do 720 to get 60. So I shot all of my work at 24. I did no slow-mo stuff. I just did documentary style everything. And I got good at doing that. But what happened was, because I wasn't shooting at 60, it took me time. Once I did get a camera that could shoot 60 and I started implementing it into my workflow, it took me time to learn that and get really, really good at that. So it's a problem when you don't have the gear that you need, obviously, to get better at the thing. Not that was your issue. You just needed reps. Maybe you had the gear, but you needed reps. But I'm assuming that you did the same thing. You probably started with, I know I've seen some posts, you started with a T2i or something in that realm and you worked your way up. So tell me a little bit about, I'm a bit of a gear nerd, not publicly, but I love to hear gear stories. Tell me about your gear progression.
Oh, man. So the first camera I ever bought that I owned, I was 17 years old. I was working at a Church's Chicken. I don't know if you guys have that over there. It's essentially a KFC.
Yeah.
It was a KFC, and I saw on QVC, which was a channel. I don't know if you guys get that over there. It was a channel that sells shit.
Yeah.
It's like, come and get the natural Texas spring water. Look at that. You're going to love this. The contents inside, the nutrients. Hold on. Just give me a second. Took off the cap there. Lemony Fresh. How about that? So for $9.99 or 2 installments of $9.99, one of those things, right?
Always installments.
And I saw a JVC camera that was...
Oh, I thought you were going to grab it. You're looking around and I'm like,
wish
oh my
I
God,
had
he's
it.
going to grab it.
No, I break my cameras. It was literally this big, really small.
Tiny.
5 megapixels. The SD card that I bought for it maxed out at 64 megabytes, maybe 128 megabytes.
Yeah.
These SD cards that were like expensive at the time. Yeah. This is 2006. And I would shoot and edit backyard wrestling videos with them, party videos. It was just like YouTube stuff. comedy sketches, things like that. I bought that camera, cost $500. That lasted me all the way to 2010, the T2i. Now I'm gonna go through the whole list, but these might not be in exact order.
Okay.
But here's what it is. Thanks again for this opportunity because this is funny. I gotta take off my headphones because this feedback is killing me. Hold on.
Okay.
So the T2i, the T3i, the 7D, the 7D Mark II, the Canon 5D Classic, the Canon 5D Mark III, 5D Mark IV, the Canon M50, the Canon EOS R5, the Canon EOS R6, and like a couple of camcorders from Canon. That's the Canon stuff. Now there's Panasonic GH3, GH4, GH5, GH5S, Panasonic Lumix full frame S5, which I still have somewhere. Panasonic Lumix full frame S1H, Sony A7S II, Sony A7R II, JVC cameras, just like camcorders for live streaming as well, Sony Handycams, things of that nature. But I think without missing any, that's about all the ones that I've used, bought, traded, sold. Yeah.
What?
Oh, and the best for last, sir. Another exclusive on your podcast. I bought it and it hasn't come in yet. It's supposed to come in any day now. You want to take a guess?
Ooh. Did you say you had the S1H already?
I said that, yeah. It's not that.
It's not that?
No. I'll give you 3 guesses, so have fun.
You don't sound like a Sony guy.
Nope.
So I'm guessing it's not the Sony. I don't even know.
This is going to be a segue.
I don't even know.
I'll tell you.
See, is it a cinema cam?
Yes.
Canon?
No.
Oh, what is it?
So I invested in the Red Komodo.
I was gonna,
and I'm waiting for this bad boy to come in, and I cannot wait to shoot my bloody TikToks on that guy.
I didn't want to go. I didn't want to say. You got to, man. You got to do.
I have to. I'm gonna. This is
I love it.
Never say never. We always say this because I thought the T2i. I could have married that fucker. Like I could have died with that T2i.
I love that.
Shot
camera.
my first feature on that. So I shot my second feature on a Red too, but I didn't own it. And
oh, good for you, man.
So like,
That's
so
exciting.
it's not like I am agnostic. And I went through that list, not to flex, but I went through that list just to say like whatever I could find, get, upgrade. There was a ladder. I went up, down, back, sideways.
You were talking about cameras there that are like at the same tier, and they were out at the same time. So you were shooting, and you had them at the same time. So one day you were like, "Oh, I'm going to shoot on the 5D," and then one day you were like, "Oh."
It was like Tarzan swinging from vine to vine. It was like T2i, T3i, 7D Mark II, 5D Classic, doesn't shoot video, 5D Mark III, GH3, GH4, 5D Mark IV. It was like that. Yeah.
Okay, so it was just a constant, and you were selling them and then taking that money and buying the new one, upgrading slowly kind of thing. Man,
absolutely.
I don't think like that. I wish I thought like that. I should do that.
Really?
I'm more of, I just keep my gear and I'm like, oh, I'll have it as a backup, and then
That's good though. I wish I was like that because I'm a street rat. There are some times where like I traded my GH4 for a Canon 5D Mark III. Instant regret. I was like, the GH4 was better. It shot 4K. It was Micro Four Thirds, and I like the Canon 5D. I sold myself and thinking I'll take more stills. Nah, man, like I made a mistake. Same thing with I traded the GH5 for the Sony A7S II. I love the Sony A7S II, but that was a regret. I was like, the GH5 was better. 10-bit in body, 4K, 60 frames a second. What was I thinking? But I was thinking, once again, Micro Four Thirds, full frame. Oh, I want to be a big boy. Dumb. Like, so that happened.
Right.
And now, right now, this stream is on an R6.
I love the Canon stuff, man. I love the Canon mirrorless stuff. Yeah.
I'm gonna say something really controversial, and I have not made TikToks in the past couple of weeks because I'm waiting for the Red. I will wait and then come out and be like, people are gonna be like, what? But I'm not gonna be like, hey guys, I'm shooting this under red. It's like I'm just gonna tell my stories, and then I know people are gonna be like, what's different?
What's
I
up?
know. 16
Yeah.
bit raw. Get the fuck out of here. Well, just watch. So this
Okay.
is an exclusive for your podcast because I love you. Amor. We got Amor here.
Love you
But
too.
here's my controversial. I wrote this TikTok and I'm like, I cannot wait to
That's so sick.
perform it. Let me see if I can just pull it up. Give me one second. It's gonna take
Thank you for dropping
5
that
seconds.
on the podcast. Appreciate it. And I
Oh,
didn't
of
want to
course.
say red. I didn't want to go too high because I'm like, I
You
didn't
can never
want you
go
to be
too
like,
high.
no. I didn't want the disappointed. No, but
I wish. No.
that's
And also I got it from
unreal.
my friend's short, like I had a good reason.
So that's on top of the 10K you've already put into it.
Well, honestly, I've invested over like almost 15. Yeah. So if you include the red,
Crazy.
yeah, it's like 15. Yeah.
Do you
Um,
have a plan of you're
yeah.
going to screen it? You're going to try to make that money back, obviously?
Thank you for asking. So I pride myself in making my money back in my movie. That's how you become successful, and that's how you're able to do it again the next time. But me and my partner, we haven't married this idea yet, but we're obsessed with this concept of let's only screen it in public. It'll never be available for digital. It'll never be on Vimeo.
Wow.
We can tour it forever. It can make money forever. It's a novelty, word of mouth. The only way to see it is through, on a big screen. I think we're obsessed
Cool.
with that. Let me tell you this little TikTok here. All hybrid mirrorless cameras are basically the same for video work anyways. If you purchase a mirrorless camera after 2020, odds are you can film in 4K, 120. Odds are you have pretty strong in-body stabilization, no record limit, wink wink, Canon. Pretty decent dynamic range. Now, I already know the comments are going to be toxic as fuck, and if you choose to participate in the battles of nuances and features, go right ahead. But I don't care if you're a Sony a7S III, a Panasonic GH6, whatever, and it's a loop. All hybrid mirrorless cameras are basically the same for video work anyways. And I believe that. We're fighting, like, number one, clients don't give a fuck. Number two, audiences don't give a fuck. This is self-congratulatory, self-masturbatory, like we're all jacking each other off. Like it's a big circle jerk. So that's one thing. But also, all hybrid mirrorless video cameras are capped. There's a glass ceiling there. And when you break through that glass ceiling, then you start talking about the red. That's just the truth. There's no discernible difference to my eye between all these mirrorless cameras. They all have that digital look. It's just true. No matter how cinematic you want to say they are or the features can be, if you get the right lens, if you get the Ronin, whatever, dude, it's not going to touch the red. 16-bit RAW, 16 stops of dynamic range, global fucking shutter. That's what I want. That's the cinematic look. I remember we were dressing up the T2i to have that cinematic look. What if it was on a slider? Yeah, now it has a cinematic look. Looks digital as fuck. I have the newest iPhone. Shoots ProRes, it still looks like it's shot on an iPhone. It's just gobbledygook, So the truth is, all hybrid mirrorless cameras, they're all the same. I say that not to sound elitist. I say that to kind of be like, don't care. The clients
Exactly.
don't.
They don't care. They don't really care if like a window's blown out. They don't. I don't think that's a thing. Like, that
They
we
don't
get
care
so hung up
about what is it called? Chromatic aberration.
Yeah.
They don't care about that.
No.
They can't
No.
notice it. Yeah.
Like
They care about their sound, right? Their sound
do.
should be great. Yeah. And they're right
They
about
do.
that. They're right about that. And the sound should be on point. But you
Gets
never hear
super
people say, what wireless lavs are you using? You never hear that.
Hell no.
The fuck out of
Yep.
here.
So, do you think getting this red is going to, like, you're going to shoot this film, right? You're going to DP it, you said?
Yeah.
And EP it?
We're using three cameras. The C70,
Okay.
the R5, And for the intro, outro, the red.
Do you think that obviously doing that film, but also having the red, is that gonna light a spark? Do you have that? Do you have something bubbling in there? Like you said, you haven't done a narrative in 6 years.
Yeah.
And I
It
know
is
you've
lighting up
got
a spark.
indie. It is, eh? Because you got indie
It
darlings
is.
going. I understand that,
Yeah.
but
I'm
you
inspired
can't
by
ignore.
tools. Like going back to Sony, you said I'm not a Sony guy. Look, I'm old fashioned. Here's my favorite lens of all time, by the way. The Canon 50 millimeter EF 1.2.
Oh, beauty!
I love
I
this.
love it.
I love it. The Sony equivalent
Beautiful.
feels like I'm holding like Moon Knight's dick. Like it doesn't feel like this. It doesn't feel like a lens. It feels like
Right.
a remote control. Like Sony is so cold and monolithic, like iPhones. People like that. I don't like that. I want it to feel, dude, the Canon form factor. That's part of why I love it. That's the truth. It feels like what I know, what I love, what I signed up
Yeah.
for, what
Yeah.
got me going in the beginning. Same thing with these lenses. Here's another lens. This feels like a lens.
What
I
is
like
that?
it. The 15 to 35.
Oh.
Even this. Now that's a beast. Here's a $90 7 Artisans.
Sick.
Feels like a lens. Feels like a lens. It's a
Still
lens.
feels like a lens. $90.
$90. So I'm not like money whore. I'm one of those pretentious pricks that are like, it's not all about money, man. But I love this. And it vignettes. It's like it's every YouTube like Potato Jet, love the guy, but all these reviewers like the Gerald Unduns, this lens is their worst nightmare. They would bear this to death. I love it.
It's a style.
It inspires me. I have it written somewhere, so I might butcher this quote. But one of the guys that created Pixar said, "Art challenges technology. Technology inspires the art." And I feel that way when it comes to the red.
I love it.
When I get that baby in my hands and I'm making vertical videos on this, I just can't wait to make the next one.
Crazy,
the phone
man.
doesn't do that for me. To make TikToks, it doesn't inspire me. It's a fun way to like beam a message,
Totally.
but it doesn't inspire me to make art. Tools
Agreed.
should do that. Like for those that are artisans that like to make cars and spend 6 years on a car, they like to work with their hands. So the tools matter. The metal matters. The matte finish matters. Like the interior, the leather, the odometer, the aesthetics, that matters. That inspires them. That's why they're doing this. It's the same thing with filmmaking for me. Like the tools I use need to inspire me.
Dude, I love it.
I love you.
You picked up, I love you too. You picked up the 15 to 30, 15 to 35. What was that?
15 to 35 RF 2.8.
Question.
Yes.
Did you ever shoot interviews with that, with a wide angle interview? Did you ever
Yes.
do a lot of corporate interviews?
I still do.
Okay.
I'm doing one Thursday.
What I'm really loving these days, I mean, I'm doing a project where we're showcasing businesses in the town I live in, right? It's like an economic development thing. And part of it is we're sitting in the business with the business in the background. Like we just went to a brewery, a microbrewery. Brewery's in the background. I love the wide angle. You get the full scope of where we are. And then the second cam with the close up.
Yep.
This is a total geeky question, but like,
I
is
love
that something that you do as well? Like I've found
Yes.
like when I was younger, I definitely just went close because it was like safe.
Yeah.
It's harder to do the wide. Is it you do that too?
On these particular this feedback. On these particular projects, I do whatever the client wants. Like sometimes they want the conservative takes, over the shoulder, or like medium. But when I get to direct, I do what you do. The wide shot, the capital of Austin's in the background. We're in this penthouse, chandelier. They're on a couch, 2 people. It's like,
I love it.
I wish I could just like not cut away. But then you have the close up, which is 70 millimeters, medium close. They're there. They're pretty, all that. So it's good to have options. If I could throw 5 cameras at every production, I would, right? But I'm
You
usually
can
2.
apparently. You have.
I can.
You have all of them.
But no one wants to pay for that. You're gonna have to pay me for that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
People want to
charge-
pay for 2.
You charge extra for the two cam shoot, 3 cam shoot, multicam, all that stuff?
Um, so I do kind of have like a top, medium, and bottom tier of how I price stuff out. People usually go for the bottom, and the truth is, I kind of want them to, because it's a pain in the ass to like bring my card out and do all the things and take
Yeah.
stills and have multiple cameras, and then when I'm editing a multicam, and it's just like you give them unlimited revisions. Oh, it's brutal. So I prefer the
Yeah.
bottom tier. I have more creative control in that way. I like limitations.
Ooh.
I don't come from the Peter Jackson school where he's like, or what's his name? Not really Scott's brother, Tony Scott. I'm not going to put 45 cameras out there, Michael Bay style, and then find it in the edit. I like masters, Spielberg style. Like, this is the master, cut to this is the other master. That's the way I like to film. That's the way I like to cut. You know, I think the smaller the sandbox, the more creative you're forced to be.
That's awesome, dude. So you talked about revisions, nightmare. I'm in a nightmare revision project right now. So you put your revisions in like in the top tier. You put in unlimited revisions in the top tier. Is that
That's
what
right.
you said?
That's right. Yep. So in my paperwork, it's bottom tier is 2 revisions. But here's the thing.
Nice.
Second tier, 2 revisions. Every revision after that costs $100 extra. Even if you want me to remove a semicolon, costs $100. Best believe they get it under 2 almost every time. And the third one is unlimited revisions, but you're paying a lot for it.
Yeah, you're paying for that.
Yeah.
And there's something I like this tier thing. I might have to utilize that myself. I don't do the tiers.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
How are you with your money situation? You making the money you want?
No, definitely not.
Oh, okay. Are you comfortable with saying how much you're bringing in a year? Ballpark?
I actually, to be honest, don't know because of COVID. But probably like around 100, probably, and that's Canadian. Probably like 75 to 100.
And where do you want to be?
Like 250. I'd like to be at like 250. But also, my wife works with me, so we took the leap. She quit. She was not working. Like, she was sort of like part-time with me, quit her part-time job, took the leap, joined forces with me about a year ago, I think. So it's like an added pressure, right? Like, of
Yes.
you need the dual income, which you seem to know a little bit about.
Yes. If you made 250, call it 300,000 Canadian a year, what does that mean for you? How does that impact your life?
It gives me more creative freedom, which is what both of us really want. Because the way that we're going now is I really do feel like if I don't do the projects, if I don't take the work, then I can't pay the bills, and that's not a good feeling. And I want to do more creative projects. You know, I put a lot of efforts into my first documentary recently, like fall into around Christmas time, ended up finishing it.
Congratulations.
Like, thank you. And it's like 12 minutes. And I'm pretty proud of it. I'm stoked to share it with the world and everything. But it took a lot of time, and luckily I had a down period with work. But the editing was crazy, man, as you know, right? So it's that. It's if I could make more money with the business, it gives us more ability to work on those kinds of projects. We're also musicians.
I didn't know that.
To get more music out there. But
that's cool.
So that man, creative
freedom.
Yeah,
that was your words. Creative freedom. What does creative freedom do for you? What's the ends to that means? Why?
Man, I talked about this last night with Zach Schertz. I was on a podcast with him, and I don't know anything else. Like, I know that it's sort of like what you said. I wasn't a born artist like you. I don't feel that same. I struggle to call myself one. I really do. it's I don't know why. It's just it's a
Your
struggle for me.
dad,
I grew up
dad or your mom.
probably, and I
Yeah.
grew up playing piano. I grew up like trying to like I have overproduce stuck in my head, overachieve in a
Yeah.
way. And then at some point in high school, I was like, what the fuck am I doing? You know, and I started to slowly quit all the things.
Yeah.
But I was that kind of kid. And then it fell off at some point. But yeah, man,
Do you and your
it's
wife have kids?
no kids. We have 2 dogs and 2 cats, and it's chaos as it is.
Whew. That's 4 animals. It's a lot of
You're
mouths
taking
to feed, Your
you're
Highness.
taking notes. You're taking notes.
I am.
Literally.
So creative freedom, that's all you're after. The money
Yeah.
doesn't matter. What are you doing? I would say work less, make less, and do more creative stuff. This is an easy fix. Because the scary part is what might happen to you is what happened to me, which is making tons of money. More money than I knew what to do with. More money. I grew up poor, like paying for hot Cheetos with food stamps when they were like dollar bills, like Monopoly money. You go to the store barefoot, you walk a mile, hot Cheetos, food stamps. Like
Crazy.
I grew up fucking poor, Section 8 housing, just like 8 years ago, which is like government housing, over here in the States, and grew up poor. So making money like is still kind of new to me.
Yeah.
And I realized it's not worth the trade. My humility, my integrity for money, for toys, for what? Like, I don't fucking love that. What I love is getting my shit in. I need to get my shit in. And that's wealth. Wealth is a state of mind. And I know this is corny, and you already know this, and you've heard it all before, and you've read all the self-development books. But when you're coming from that place, then the monetary wealth comes. It just does. It's weird like that. It's weird like that. So I would encourage you, not that you asked, but just start living the lifestyle of somebody who has that creative freedom. Watch what fucking happens.
Ooh.
Watch what happens. You'll start attracting more clients that interest you. I'm a big believer in like firing the ones that are just like, you pay me a lot, fuck you, it's not worth it. Big believer in that. They'll either fix their attitudes, they'll come crying back, or it'll come back in a different way. I promise you. I believe in that. You seem like a guy who just, the universe wants to help. The universe wants to throw you a bone. It does.
Oh,
But
man.
you have to be like,
Thank you.
you have to have arms wide open to receive it. If creative freedom is what you're after, it doesn't matter if you make $1 million.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter because it's a state of mind. What happens if you get so busy and then it's the chasing the Joneses shit, and all of a sudden you're like, I have all this money, but I'm not happy. I'm not doing the creative work that I want. Why? Like, this is what I worked so hard. Now I'm 43 and it's too late. Right. So, I would just like start with the ends to the means. Just start with it. Arrive that way. And then what happens after that?
I love the idea of actually just like acting like I have the creative freedom. I think that's super key.
But deciding to decide, behave as if you do with your clients and everybody. Respectfully, don't be a dick. Don't be a spaz. Don't burn bridges. But be like your dream creator, your dream artisan, your dream filmmaker, your dream videographer, your dream professional. Be that guy. You will attract the people that you want to attract. And more importantly, you get to happily achieve as opposed to achieve to be happy with this creative freedom. You can just start there. And then the best part is what's after that? That you don't know. And the only way to get there is to get through this mountain first.
Did you ever have periods in your life where finances were rocky? And I mean, obviously you just told me about food stamps and stuff, but like finances were rocky. You knew you should be maybe working instead of working on a creative project, working to make money, and you chose the creative project instead?
Yes. Flashback to 2017. I have 2 kids. They're young. I have 3 eggs in the fridge, and I know they got to eat. I don't get to eat. and I was working a sales job downtown. The commute was torture. The hemorrhoids, Quinn, the hemorrhoids. But I was also eating like the work fridge food, eating peanuts, drinking coffee, like just living off of nothing. I was dropping weight so fast. In pursuit of this dream, and one of my best friends in the entire world told me, Knives, you need to give up on this filmmaking passion thing. Like, it's just not for you, man. Like, think about your family. What are you doing? And I remember my reaction was, not you, Dave. Not you, man. Not you. Like, I expect this from my mother. I expect this from my brother.
Not Dave.
But not from you. And, you know, you always see that meme of like that guy who's the coal miner and then he quits. And then the other guy who just kept going a yard more and he got the diamonds. That's what happened. Took one meeting that changed my life, turned me from amateur to pro, was able to quit that job and then buy free range eggs in perpetuity. And I was rich once I went from amateur to pro. I was rich in the mind. I know what it's like to be poor and work for the man and do all that and slave over work and sign up for a project that you think is going to be great. They pay you X amount. Yay. It goes on 6 months later and you're like, I did not get paid enough. You know, I know all that all too well. It sucks. But I also know my mental health is more important than money, than the pursuit of money, than deals, than competition, all this abstract capitalist bullshit. It is. Ultimately, like you mentioned, the 2 dogs, 2 cats. I have 2 jobs, 2 dogs, 2 kids. And the most important in that tier are my kids and my dogs and my wife, right? Like I serve them. Everybody else can get fucked at the end of the day. There's always, and I said this to you on TikTok, bro, if you want, quit that job. The straight life is always there. It's always with the welcome sign, like, hey, we're here, handing out jobbies all the time. But the pursuit of your dreams, of your love, your passions,
damn,
man, that's wealth, man. Like I encourage people if they can to do it. As a matter of fact, I don't respect anyone that doesn't have the courage to bet on themselves.
That's so crazy, man. Like I don't think about. I guess I know this. The straight life is there, like, and the weird thing for me is like I had the straighter life 3 years ago, 4 years ago, something like that. I was working like a corporate job at a broadcasting facility, and I ended up being like, no, I'm quitting. We traveled across Canada, my wife and I and the dog, and then I started my own company up again. I had it before I took the job, started up again in a new town. And that's where I am now, but I'm exactly where you're talking about. I'm ready for more now. Like this was an endeavor for a few years. Come to the new town, get the business going. I'm bored. Like I'm ready to push the next level. Which I think is exactly what you said.
I think conservatively, like if you had kids, I would tell you, well, you have 4 animals, but if you had children, I would tell you, do both. Do the stuff that makes you happy and you're passionate, whatever. See if that bucket can fill up so you can quit this job. But, that's the conservative way to do it. There's nothing wrong with that. I've done that too. Yeah. But I would also encourage you to emotionally vacate all your feelings in this workplace and go all in on what makes you tick, for sure. For your well-being, for your mental health, to recharge, to love what you do again. I would encourage you to do that. And whatever that means for you, contextually. And if it doesn't work out, blame me and say some crazy TikTok guy told me to do it, fuckhead. And I'll take the heat. It's fine.
I've got the evidence. Go watch the episode.
There you go.
You've always been, so I know, like you said from when you were a toddler, I think you said from when you were a toddler, you were a film buff. You knew where your passion was, like so early on in life. And I guess it didn't really waver.
No.
That's another thing for me. I get so bored of stuff. I don't get, necessarily bored, but like even within a realm, like I'll get obsessed with like cinematography for a bit, and then I'll get obsessed with like directing for a bit, or like whatever. I get,
Yeah, that's okay.
What like
I don't hear anything wrong with that. Do you like that or not?
I think you're talking about going all in on something, and I don't know what to go all in on is the thing. Maybe it's just myself. Maybe that's what I need to go all in on. I don't know.
Do you seek some sort of external validation from some source?
I like to say no, but
Why would you like
yes.
to say no, but you know it's yes? Why would you
Yeah, I know
like
it's
to say
yes.
no? Why lie?
Oh, why do I want to say no? Because I want to be free to feel like I can do whatever the fuck I want.
So just decide that. Like, make a decision. I heard that the word decision comes from like some Latin root that means to cut off, decision, to cut off from other possibilities, other timelines, other verdicts.
Mm-hmm.
I would just decide to do that. Like, living your truth and shit. Just because you're 36 doesn't mean that like you're set in your ways. You can always flip the switch. If it's what's the word I'm looking for? If it's meaningful enough to you,
Yeah,
it has to be meaningful. You can't just say, I want to make a film. Well, why? Because that'd be neat.
exactly.
That's not meaningful enough.
No.
For me, at the time, it was deeply rooted in my identity. I hated the prospect of telling people I'm an aspiring filmmaker. It killed me, man. Aspiring meant nothing.
That's.
I wanted to say I made a movie. I made 2 movies. I made 4 movies. I wanted to be in it. I wanted to be one of the guys that was in it, that woke up, he was in it. One day I decided, and that was it. I didn't need the external validation. I have been externally validated. It helps. What would that look like for you? What is that external validation? Is it mommy or daddy saying, go ahead, Quinn, make us proud? Like what? I mean, seriously, I'm not trying to be glib. Like what? Usually it comes from somebody else giving permission.
Yeah, I assume there's definitely some of that in there, for sure. But I know my entire life I'm my harshest critic. I've just been, that's the way I am. I'm a very sensitive person.
I can tell.
And my wife is even more sensitive. She's a highly sensitive person, to the point where like we don't really even watch. And I know you're a Tarantino buff. I actually, to brush up on your content, I actually watched a couple of Tarantinos today while I was working. And,
Cool.
But man, like we don't watch violence in this house very often because she is so sensitive.
I understand. I am too. I
know.
I get PTSD with these movies, man. I've seen a horror film, and then the next night I have a nightmare. I'm killing my mother gratuitously. Like it has effects. So I feel you, brother. I feel you on that. I don't think I'm casting any judgment.
No,
I wanted to
absolutely
ask.
not.
Are you familiar with the CEO of Patreon, Jack Conte?
No.
Thank. Oh, so there's one takeaway. Yes. There's one takeaway I want you to get from this podcast. And actually, I think we're going to have to wrap up soon because I have to pee really bad. But also, I think we're at that time.
We are.
And there's one takeaway. And I'll let you go through like all the questions that you want to get in. I'll try to answer them really fast if you'd like, if you have any. But and
we're going to do it again, right? So
we can always do it again. Yes.
Let's do it again.
Write this down. Patreon, the CEO, Jack Conte, him and his wife have a band. They make music. It's called Pomplamoose. May have heard of them. I'm going to send you a video at the end of this. I'll give you my phone number so I can just text it to you. And there's this one video, man. If this doesn't do it, if this doesn't wake you up inside, this is
going to do it.
You're fucked. You're fucked. It's going to take some sort of life event, a crisis. It's going to take all 4 of your animals just before you know it. They run away from home. And you're, oh, what do I have? What do I do?
Yeah.
It's going to take some sort of life event crisis. Why wait for that? Why wait for that? Like, you deserve to start living a creatively passionate, free life now.
Thank
I
you.
will send you this video. If this doesn't do it, you're fucked. I mean that.
We're done. If I'm looking forward to it, man. What's it called? What's it called? Can you say what it's called?
Yeah.
Or
Let me.
just for anyone who's listening or watching, and then they can.
That's a good idea. Let me pull that up. This one
take a sec, pull it up.
One particular video.
And while you're doing that, I'll just thank you for coming on, and just note that all of this stuff you were saying, I really appreciate that, man, because it's real talk that, like you said, we've been doing this thing for a while, individually, obviously separately, but we both, I think, understand what it is and some of the struggles that come with it. So I really do appreciate the insight coming from someone like yourself, man, for real.
Also, thank you so much for that. The honor's all mine. I also must say, I don't know shit, but I don't know anything. But when it comes to this narrow highway that is filmmaking, creativity, passion, that's what I dedicated my entire life to. So everything else around me, don't ask me about geopolitical, global oil, economic. Like, I don't know. I'm not educated. If I grew up in modern times, I would have dropped out of high school at 15. I would have been like, yeah, I'm doing this for a living. Like,
yeah.
I didn't get an education. I have a 3rd grade education. I really do. The video is called Patreon CEO Shares His Most Epic Failures. This is it. This is the video, man. I saw that, and he's a deeply talented guy, and he reminds me of you. If anything, he's more sensitive. And I felt something after this video, and I realized it's fucking time to go all in on Knives Monroe and make his inner child happy. It's fucking time. So thank you so much for having me, man. I'm so honored. This is great. I want to do it again. Make it a regular thing. I'm always here for you.
Buddy, this has been so much fun, man, honestly. And I know you got to pee, so I will let you go. Don't hold it anymore. Dude, thank you again. I'm going to link all your stuff so you can go, but I'll link all your stuff, obviously. We got to do it again. We got to do it again soon. Let's not wait too long.
I would love that. I appreciate you, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate you, dude. Thank you so much.